Welcome to another deep dive, and this time we're tackling a really cool book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
Yeah.
It's all about the surprising ways, I think, that our emotions and our histories kind of mess with our money choices.
Absolutely.
It's like behavioral economics, but hopefully a little more fun.
Yeah, it's fascinating, We often get caught up in the technical stuff like interest rates, the markets, the latest investment strategies.
Right.
But Housel, he really gets down to like the core of it, the psychology, like why we do what we do with money,
So we're going beyond like spreadsheets and stock tips here.
Exactly.
We're trying to figure out what makes us tick when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Right.
And ultimately how all that like impacts our happiness, like are we happy with the choices we're making?
Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
Housel starts off with these two really different stories. Ronald Reed, who was a janitor in Vermont, and then Richard Fuscone, a Harvard millionaire.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
They perfectly illustrate how money success, it's not just about smarts.
Right.
It's much more about behavior.
Okay.
So Ronald Reed, humble job, janitor, but he died with like an $8 million fortune just by living simply, investing consistently.
Wow.
Yeah, just let that compounding work its magic.
Okay.
Over decades.
And then you've got this guy Fuscone, who had like all the advantages, went to Harvard, high-flying career, and ends up bankrupt.
Yeah, it's kind of a head-scratcher.
It makes you wonder what Reed was doing that this other guy wasn't.
Well, I think Reed's story shows us something really important about successful money behavior. It's that long-term thinking. He wasn't trying to get rich quick or time the market or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was just like steady, patient and consistent.
Right.
He just understood that slow and steady wins the race, especially when it comes to building wealth.
That's so true. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype and you want to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
But Reed's story is like, whoa, slow down.
Patience, discipline, that's the key.
Yeah. Okay. So then Fuscone's story, that's more of a warning, right?
Yeah.
About being overconfident, taking too much risk.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that getting money is one thing, but keeping it and growing it the right way,
right,
that's a whole other ballgame.
It's like building a house. You need that solid foundation.
Exactly.
You want to weather the storms, right?
Yeah. And that foundation, when we're talking about money,
yeah,
it's built on your habits, your mindset, and really understanding like your own psychology, why you do what you do.
It's like you got to know yourself before you can manage your money.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just about like the how-to of money, it's the why.
The why is huge.
Yeah, and Housel really dives into this idea that we all have these different mental models about how money works.
Yeah, these mental models, they're shaped by everything.
Right.
Our experiences, how we grew up, even just like the stories we tell ourselves about money.
So everyone's playing the money game with different rules.
Different rule books, yeah. And we don't even realize it a lot of the time.
And these rules are like subconscious, right?
Totally subconscious. Yeah.
They're driving our decisions even if they don't make sense on paper.
Exactly. Like they might not be logical or based on facts,
right,
but they feel right to us, based on our experience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Yeah.
And Housel uses this example of the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah.
To show how these mental models can be so different. Like someone who lived through that might be super afraid of risk.
Right.
They're going to prioritize security above everything else.
Thanks.
Yeah. But then someone who grew up in like a booming economy, they might be more willing to take risks.
Yeah. They see risk differently as an opportunity.
Right. So it's like even something like finance, it's all colored by like our own personal lens.
It's all subjective, even when we think it's objective.
This whole mental model thing, this is really making me think.
Oh, powerful.
It's like, whoa, how much of my money behavior is driven by stuff I don't even realize?
Yeah, it's about becoming aware of those stories we tell ourselves and then, asking, are these stories helping me or holding me back?
Okay, so we've got these mental models.
Yeah.
But then Housel throws in this curveball, the lottery ticket paradox.
Yeah.
Like, why would someone with very little money spend a big chunk of it on something so unlikely to win?
Right. It seems irrational, right, from a numbers perspective. But when you think about that person's mental model, it actually makes perfect sense. For someone struggling financially, that lottery ticket, it represents hope, a chance to escape their situation.
It's a gamble, but it's a gamble fueled by like a deep desire for something better.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder how many of our money decisions are driven by emotion, not logic.
Oh, probably way more than we'd like to admit.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to remember that finance, it's not just numbers. It's about hopes and dreams and fears.
Yeah.
All those things are mixed in there.
And sometimes those emotions lead us to do things that seem crazy to other people. But to us, they make sense.
They fit into our story.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, understanding our mental models, biases, triggers, it's all crucial if we want to make good choices.
Absolutely. Choices that actually get us where we want to go.
So, speaking of long-term goals, retirement comes to mind. And Housel actually challenges this idea that everyone used to have pensions.
Right.
Like this guaranteed, comfortable retirement. He says that's not really how it was.
It's true.
He points out that the whole idea of retirement, like we know it, it's actually pretty recent.
Yeah, before World War II, most people worked until they just couldn't anymore.
Wow.
Social Security changed things, but even then, it was meant to be a safety net.
Right.
Not like a luxurious retirement plan.
Right.
This whole idea of a comfortable retirement funded by like savings and investments, that really took off in the 80s, relatively recently.
So our 401ks, Roth IRAs, those are like babies in the grand scheme of things.
They're brand new. The 401k didn't even exist until 78.
Right.
And the Roth IRA, even later, 98.
So we're all kind of new to this whole retirement savings thing.
We're figuring it out as we go, definitely.
It's like we're pioneers.
Yeah.
Heading into uncharted territory with like a half-drawn map.
Yeah, and we're all learning from each other's mistakes.
Speaking of learning from others, Housel drops some serious knowledge about Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, the power of time and compounding.
Huge.
He asks us to imagine if Buffett had started investing at 30.
Okay.
Instead of as a teenager. Even with his amazing returns, his net worth would be like $11.9 million.
Yeah.
Compared to like the $84.5 billion it is today.
Huge difference.
It's insane, right?
Yeah.
It really shows the power of starting early and just letting that compounding do its thing over decades.
Yeah, it's like a snowball rolling downhill. The longer it rolls,
Right.
the bigger it gets.
And he keeps going. He introduces us to Jim Simons.
Oh, yeah.
A hedge fund manager with even higher returns than Buffett, like 66%.
Crazy.
But his net worth is way lower, simply because he started later.
Time, it trumps everything.
Like Simons is this speedboat, and Buffett's a cargo ship. The speedboat's faster.
Yeah.
But the cargo ship covers way more ground in the long run.
It's a great analogy.
I'm thinking patience should be a mandatory class in school.
Absolutely.
But compounding, it's kind of a hard concept to grasp.
It does feel like magic, yeah.
Yeah, so Housel gives us this relatable example. Data storage.
Okay.
Think about like the early computers. We measured storage in kilobytes.
Right.
Now it's terabytes, petabytes. It's exponential.
It is. It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
And it helps us visualize how compounding works. It starts slow.
Yeah.
But over time, those gains just multiply on themselves. It's like an explosion.
And even Bill Gates, right? He underestimated it.
Oh, really?
Housel tells this story about Gates. He was skeptical about Gmail's storage capacity back in 2004. He just couldn't imagine people needing that much storage,
It's easy to underestimate exponential growth, whether it's data or investments.
Yeah, our brains aren't wired for it.
We were more short-term focused, right?
Yeah, we want instant gratification, not slow and steady growth.
Okay, so mental models, time, compounding, it's a lot to take in. But then Housel brings us back down to earth with a cautionary tale about Jesse Livermore, this legendary stock trader, and Abraham Germansky, a real estate guy.
Yeah.
Their stories during the 1929 crash, they really show how quickly fortunes can change.
Yeah, the markets are unpredictable, that's for sure.
So Livermore, he bets against the market, makes a fortune.
Wow.
But Germansky, he gets caught up in all the hype and ends up facing ruin.
It's like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, greed and fear, they can really drive markets to extremes.
Absolutely.
But here's the crazy part. Both of these guys end up, they both end up taking their own lives.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a reminder that financial success isn't just about getting the money. It's about keeping it, managing it wisely.
And maybe even more importantly, finding that balance between money and, happiness.
Right.
Their stories show us that money problems, they can take a huge toll no matter how much you've earned.
So true. It's a reminder that real wealth is more than just our net worth.
Absolutely.
It's about building a life that's like both financially secure and personally fulfilling.
It's about the whole picture, not just the numbers.
Yeah, and that often means having a healthy relationship with risk, understanding our own emotions and prioritizing stability over like those quick wins.
Long-term thinking, always.
Speaking of stability, Housel brings us back to Warren Buffett.
Ah, the Oracle of Omaha.
He says that survival is key to Buffett's success. He's weathered so many economic storms, 14 recessions.
He's seen it all.
And he always comes out stronger.
He's the master of playing the long game.
So how does he do it?
Well, he avoids debt like the plague. He never panics during downturns.
Right.
He's built this reputation for like integrity and long-term vision.
Right. So he's basically built his financial house on solid ground.
Exactly.
It can withstand anything.
It's like a fortress.
Yeah. And that leads us to this other important concept from Housel, room for error.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
He says it's not just about being conservative. It's about building in flexibility.
Flexibility is key.
To handle whatever life throws at you.
Exactly. You got to be prepared for the unexpected.
So it's like having a financial cushion, right? Yeah. So when those surprise expenses pop up.
Yeah, medical bills, job loss, whatever.
You're not scrambling. You're not making rash decisions.
You're not forced to sell your investments at the worst possible time.
Right. Having that room for error helps you navigate those bumps in the road.
Keeps you on track.
Yeah. It's about accepting that life rarely goes according to plan.
Absolutely.
And Housel gives some great examples of what this looks like having a frugal budget.
Yeah, so you're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. Being flexible in your thinking, having a loose timeline.
So you don't have to sell at a loss if you need cash.
Right. These are all ways to build in that room for error.
It's about acknowledging that we can't predict the future.
Right.
And creating buffers to protect ourselves.
So financial security, it's not just about how much money you have.
It's about how prepared you are for those curveballs.
Right. It's about resilience, being able to bounce back.
Exactly. That's what allows you to build wealth over the long term.
It's wild how these mental models, they just keep coming up, right? Like they're the puppet masters behind our money decisions.
They really are. And it's not just about our own models.
Right.
It's remembering that everyone else is working with their own set of beliefs too, you know, based on their experiences.
Yeah, which can make things interesting, especially with something as loaded as money.
Absolutely. Think about someone who grew up, say, in poverty.
Yeah, right.
They might be super risk averse, right? Like security is everything.
Makes sense.
But then someone from a wealthy family,
yeah,
they might be way more comfortable taking risks. They see it as an opportunity.
So it's like they're not even playing the same game.
Different games entirely.
And it makes you think, like all this financial advice out there.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all. What works for one person could be terrible for another.
Absolutely. It's got to be personalized.
And it's not just individual experiences either, right?
No, not at all.
Like big events, the Great Depression, inflation, those can affect whole generations.
Totally. Housel found that people who lived through the Depression, they were way more conservative with their investments, even decades later.
It's crazy how those events kind of get baked into our, like, collective money mindset.
It's like this cultural memory, even if we didn't experience it directly.
So history matters, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Housel also cautions against using history as like a perfect roadmap for the future.
Right. We can't just assume the past will repeat itself.
He says things that have never happened before happen all the time.
Yeah. He quotes this Stanford professor, Scott Sagan.
So learning from the past, yes.
Yeah.
But assuming the future will be the same.
That's dangerous.
Exactly. Unexpected stuff happens all the time.
Black swan events, they call them.
The dot-com bubble, 2008, even the pandemic.
Nobody saw those coming.
Okay. Which brings us to this other point Housel makes. Paying the price.
Okay.
He says financial success, it always comes with a cost, whether it's volatility, uncertainty, or just like delayed gratification.
Right. You got to be willing to wait, be patient.
It's like anything in life. You want a six-pack.
Yeah.
You got to hit the gym. You want a great career.
Put in the work.
You got to hustle. Money's the same way.
No shortcuts.
But here's the thing. A lot of people want the reward without the work.
Oh, yeah, that's the dream, right?
They want high returns without risk, quick riches without effort.
It's like looking for the fountain of youth. It doesn't exist.
Exactly. And those attempts to like cheat the system,
yeah,
they often backfire. People lose money, get further away from their goals.
The real price they pay is missed opportunities, wasted time, and a lot of stress.
It's like that saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Especially with money.
You got to be willing to put in the effort, accept some risk, and be patient.
That's where loving your investments comes in.
Okay, so it's not about being like emotionally reckless.
No, not at all.
It's about finding investments that you actually believe in.
Yeah, things that align with your values, your interests, your long-term vision.
So it's like finding a partner, not a one-night stand.
Exactly. You're in it for the long haul, through good times and bad.
When you believe in those companies, you're more likely to stick with them through the ups and downs.
It's like having faith.
That emotional connection, it can keep you grounded.
Yeah, it prevents those knee-jerk reactions based on fear or greed.
It's about seeing your investments as part of your life plan.
Not just a way to get rich quick.
And that long-term perspective, it's essential for riding out those market swings.
And ultimately benefiting from that compounding growth.
It's about being an owner, not a day trader.
Owning a piece of something you believe in.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense, but there's this other part of the puzzle, right? You're not a spreadsheet.
You're a human.
We're not robots. We can't just plug in numbers and expect perfect outcomes.
Housel says striving for perfect rationality, it's unrealistic, and it can actually backfire.
So it's better to aim for, like, reasonable decisions.
Yeah, decisions that take into account our human limitations.
Our biases, our tendency to freak out over short-term stuff.
And our herd mentality, following the crowd even when it's wrong.
So it's about finding a balance between, like, our emotional side and our logical side.
Exactly. Making choices that feel right, not just logically, but also aligned with our values.
This brings up the concept of enough.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
We don't talk about that enough. It's always about wanting more.
More.
More money, more stuff, more status.
But Housel reminds us that chasing more can actually make us unhappy.
The comparison is the thief of joy.
You're always looking at what other people have, never satisfied with what you've got.
He tells this story about Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
He was told that this billionaire hedge fund guy had made more money in one day
than Vonnegut had made from Catch-22 in its entire history.
Yeah.
And Vonnegut's response.
What'd he say?
Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough.
It's amazing. It challenges this idea that wealth is just a straight line, more.
It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't just about the money.
It's about having enough to live a life that's meaningful.
To pursue your passions, have strong relationships, made a difference.
It's defining success on your own terms.
Not by someone else's standards.
Okay, so mental models, long-term thinking, finding enough, remembering we're not robots.
That's a lot, right?
There's another layer to this psychology of money thing, behavioral economics.
Ah, yes. That's where things get really interesting.
So it's like our brains are actually working against us when it comes to money.
Sometimes, yeah, we have these cognitive biases that trip us up.
So we think we're being rational.
But really, we're just falling prey to these ingrained patterns of thinking.
Housel talks about a few of these biases.
Yeah, like loss aversion.
Okay, what's that?
It's this tendency to feel the pain of a loss way more strongly.
Yeah.
Than the pleasure of an equal gain.
It's like losing $100 feels way worse.
Way worse.
Than finding $100 feels good.
Exactly. And this can make us do dumb things with investments.
Like what?
Like holding on to a losing stock for way too long.
Yeah.
Just to avoid the pain of selling at a loss.
It's like being on a sinking ship and refusing to get off.
Stubbornness can be expensive.
Another bias is anchoring bias.
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic.
What's that one?
It's basically relying too much on the first piece of information you get.
Okay.
Even if it's irrelevant or outdated.
So you get stuck on that first no.
You get anchored to it, yeah, and it can lead to bad decisions.
Like what?
Like focusing on the sticker price of a car.
Yeah.
Even though you know it's negotiable.
Or anchoring your investment decisions on the price you paid for a stock.
Rather than what it's actually worth now.
Yeah. So these biases, they can really mess us up.
They can definitely lead us astray.
It's amazing how much our subconscious is running the show.
It's like we're on autopilot half the time.
So understanding behavioral economics, it's crucial for making good choices.
Yeah, it's like learning how to outsmart your own brain.
So loss aversion, anchoring bias, any other mental gremlins we should be aware of?
Oh, there's a whole zoo of them.
Yeah.
But one that's particularly relevant to what we're talking about is this tendency to believe anything when we're desperate.
Okay, that sounds kind of scary.
It can be. Housel tells the story about a father in Yemen. His son was sick.
Okay.
And the village elders, they recommended this folk remedy, shoving a burning stick through the boy's chest.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's intense. But when they asked the father why he would do that, he said, when you have no money and your son is sick, you'll believe anything.
That's heartbreaking, but it makes sense. When the stakes are high,
and we feel powerless.
We're vulnerable to those false promises.
Especially when it comes to money.
We all want to believe there's a quick fix, a magic bullet.
But there just isn't. It's hard work and patience.
It's like those late-night infomercials, promising instant wealth.
They prey on our desperation.
So we got to be extra careful when we're feeling stressed about money.
Take a step back, get some advice, and remember, if it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
Exactly.
So, biases, check. But Housel also takes us on this tour of the American consumer, right?
He does, yeah. He traces how our spending habits and saving patterns have changed over time.
From World War II to today.
It's a fascinating look at how our relationship with money has evolved.
So it's like a cultural history of money in America.
Yeah, with all the booms and busts, changing expectations, the whole shebang.
So what are some of the big takeaways from that historical perspective?
Well, Housel talks about how the post-war boom led to this huge increase in spending.
People had more money, right?
Yeah, and this middle-class lifestyle emerged.
The American dream, suburbs, cars, all that.
Exactly, and debt became a way to achieve it.
Credit cards became a thing.
People were buying stuff they couldn't necessarily afford.
Assuming their incomes would just keep going up.
That's the assumption.
Yeah, then things started to shift, right?
Yeah, income inequality started to widen.
The rich got richer.
And everyone else struggled to keep up.
Housel calls it the big stretch.
People were trying to maintain this lifestyle.
Even if they couldn't afford it.
Yeah, leading to more and more debt.
And then, boom, the 2008 crisis.
Housing bubble bursts. People lose their homes, jobs, savings, everything.
It's a reminder that even when things seem good, there can be hidden problems.
And these big economic forces, they play a huge role in our financial lives.
It's not just about making smart personal choices.
It's about understanding the system, the bigger picture.
So we got to connect the dots, see how the past influences the present and shapes the future.
It's all connected.
So what does this all mean for us today? Like, what do we do with all this information?
Well, Housel reminds us that history doesn't have to dictate our future. We can make choices, learn from the past, and create our own financial path.
We're not just along for the ride.
We have agency. We can take control.
So it's about being proactive, informed, intentional.
You can't just sit back and hope for the best.
We got to grab the wheel and steer.
Make choices that align with our values and our goals.
That's a call to action. Be more mindful about our money, more informed.
And more intentional about where we want to go.
It's not just about the numbers.
It's about understanding the psychology behind those numbers.
The forces that are shaping our financial lives, whether we realize it or not. Wow, it's like we've been peeking behind the curtain. You know, there's this whole hidden world of psychology driving our money decisions.
Yeah, and one of the biggest takeaways from Housel, I think, is that the world just keeps changing.
Right.
What worked in the past might not work in the future. The rules of a game are always evolving.
So we can't just like set it and forget it with our finances. Got to be adaptable, open to new information, question our assumptions.
Always be learning.
Think about how much has changed, even in the last few decades.
Oh, yeah. The internet, globalization, technology, it's moving so fast.
And it's not slowing down.
Not at all.
It's like we're trying to navigate this crazy landscape, and the old maps are useless.
You got to be able to adjust on the fly.
Housel says we need a growth mindset.
100%.
Be lifelong learners, adapt our strategies as things change.
It's about being proactive, seeking out new information, not being afraid to change course.
So embrace the unknown. The future's full of possibilities, good and bad.
And be ready to pivot.
We got to be agile, like those tech startups.
Exactly. It's not about knowing everything. It's about being able to learn and adapt.
Okay, so this brings us to another big point from Housel. This idea that controlling our emotions, that's often the key to success.
Huge.
So it's not just about knowing the right strategies, it's about having the discipline to stick with them.
Even when things get tough.
When you're freaking out, when the market's crashing.
Yeah, that's when your psychology really comes into play.
It's about mastering our own minds, recognizing those biases, having the patience to make good decisions.
Even when you're feeling fear or greed, you know.
Like, our biggest enemy is often ourselves.
It's true.
We're battling those inner financial demons.
Impulsivity, fear, short-term thinking.
Those can really sabotage us.
They can derail your whole plan.
So how do we win this battle? How do we tame those demons?
Well, Housel gives us some tools. First, he says, have a long-term perspective.
Don't get caught up in the day-to-day noise.
Yeah, tune out the headlines, the market fluctuations.
Like running a marathon, not a sprint.
You got to pace yourself. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Investing is a long game.
The people who succeed are the ones who can stay calm, stay focused, even when things are crazy.
Block out the noise.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Okay, so long-term perspective. What else?
Embrace humility.
Admit we don't know everything.
Which can be hard.
Especially in the world of money, where everyone pretends to have all the answers.
But humility is key for learning and growing.
It lets us be open to new information, challenge our own beliefs, ask for help.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together,
We can learn from each other.
Yeah. Build a network of people you trust, advisors, mentors, friends.
People who can offer support and guidance.
And a reality check when you need it.
Okay, so long-term perspective, humility, anything else?
One more big one. Remember that money is just a tool.
It's a means to an end, not the end itself.
It's not about hoarding wealth or chasing status.
It's about using money to create a life you love.
Align your financial goals with your values.
Don't sacrifice your health or happiness for a bigger bank account.
Find that balance between financial security and a life of purpose.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money,
I
want you all to think about your own mental models, your biases, your time horizon, your definition of enough.
It's all personal,
What price are you willing to pay for financial success? And what strategies can you use to, master your own mind?
It's an ongoing journey, this whole financial well-being thing.
It's not a destination, it's a process.
Keep learning, adapting, making choices that feel right for you.
And remember, money is a tool to build the life you love, not a master to be served.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We hope you enjoyed exploring these ideas with us, and we definitely recommend checking out Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money.
It's a great read.
It'll make you think about money in a whole new way. Until next time, keep those mental models in check, embrace the power of time, and remember, it's not just about being rich. It's about having enough